Well, welcome, Chip Cravaack. Thanks for sitting down with the Minnesota Freedom Council this evening.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, Chip, as you know, the Minnesota Freedom Council has been working very hard on the military vote issue,
Yes.
Especially since the Coleman-Franken election of 2008. We're interested to know your views, if elected as a U.S. Congressman, how you would see your role in making sure that what happened then doesn't happen in the future. And what we're referring to, namely, is that less than 16% of the overseas military votes were actually counted once received in Minnesota during that election. Can you expound on that?
That's a travesty. That's an absolute travesty of justice. Those young men and women out there on the point of the spear, they should be given the first rights of voting. I will do everything in my power to make sure that the men and women that serve, their votes are counted. It's very disheartening to me to see that occur to our troops. I'm sure they feel the same way as well. I'd be throwing up my hands saying, why am I here if my vote doesn't even count and that my vote is not protected? Well, we will protect their votes, and that's what that's on my agenda.
Can you tell us briefly what brought you to politics? Was it an independent movement? Was it the Tea Party? Would you expand on that, please?
This is the last place I thought I'd ever be, going into politics. I was very happily retired. I retired from Northwest Airlines, I retired from the military, and I was enjoying my family and my children. What actually occurred was a Tea Party day. I had my children in the back of my car. I was heading to an event of theirs, and I heard on the radio, go to your congressional offices and demand basically a town hall meeting discussing the first health care bill. I thought that was a really good idea. So I had been writing Congressman Oberstar on numerous occasions and not getting any answers to the questions that I had. So I said, you know what, this sounds like a great idea. I'm going to try this. So I did. I went into, there was quite a many people there. There was 25 people in that office. It was a small office. And we walked in, we talked to the staffer there for about, oh gosh, 2.5 hours and requesting a town hall meeting. And finally, I guess he got fed up with us and he said, the congressman's too busy to meet with you. When I left that office, I said, whoever runs against Jim Oberstar, I'm going to support. I will pound in signs, I will lit drop, I will phone bank, I will financially support whoever goes against Congressman Oberstar. Well, a couple weeks later, I'm reading my little hometown paper. He did come in the local area, but he only met with special interest groups, and he would not take questions on the health care bill. That's when I formulated the idea. I said, pick up your own pack, move forward, and you engage him. And that's basically how it all started. Really simple.
You've said on several occasions that in the military you had sworn to protect the Constitution and the country from enemies, foreign and domestic.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, who are the foreign enemies that we should be watching right now? And as a follow-up, who are the domestic enemies that we are currently dealing with and should be looking out for?
Foreign enemies, this is asymmetric warfare. This is not normal warfare that we've ever seen in the past. And the people that I'm truly afraid of are the insurgents, the people that are under the radar, and they're basically trying to destroy our republic and take away our inalienable rights. And they will use terrorism and kill innocent American civilians to accomplish those goals. I'm convinced of that. We just saw an incident today out of Amsterdam where it was obvious to me. I'm a federal flight deck officer, or a former federal flight deck officer. I carried a weapon flying aircraft. And it was obvious to me what these people were trying to do. They were doing a dry run. Why would you tape a cell phone to a bottle of liquid? Nobody does that. So these are the people that I'm afraid of most on a foreign level. Domestically, I'm afraid of those that do not believe in the Constitution. I'm afraid of those people that see a different way than the Constitution brings about. And it may not be obvious on how they do it. They'll try to do it through laws, and they'll try to do it through restrictions and regulations to get away from the Constitution. I'm afraid they may bring us so far to a different direction that because of laws and restrictions, we can never come back again. That's what I'm afraid of most.
How do you view the national debt in terms of our children's future?
National debt, this is what I feel. one of the main things I hear about, excuse me, Congressman Oberstar, excuse me, sorry, Congressman Oberstar, is that he brings pork back to the district. Now, here's what I view when I hear that. I open up I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. They carry backpacks going to school. I vision that I open up their backpacks, I put in a 50-pound rock, and I zip it back up again. And I say, sorry, son, you're going to have to hump this the rest of your life. Because that's exactly what we're doing to our national debt right now to our children. And that is going to be less freedom than I had, because they are going to be enslaved to taxes. The other aspect of this debt is unsustainable. I mean, everybody says, well, the war debt. Well, the last stimulus plan was actually much more than the war debt, the 8 years we've had in Iraq. So that is a falsehood about war debt. The debt is what's going to be the demise of this country. What you can take a look at is take a look what happened in Iceland. Take a look what's happening in the EU right now over in Greece. When their debt becomes so high and unmanageable, where basically other foreign countries stop believing in what you can do, your markets will crash, and your currency will basically become worthless. That is the direction that this country is going right now, unless we curb our spending and decrease our debt.
Would you please define your views for us on illegal immigration and what the federal government's responsibility is under the United States Constitution?
Protect our borders. See, I look at illegal immigration as a national security issue. We have our perimeter, our borders, are basically an open sieve right now. And the United States government is supposed to protect the citizens of the United States. We have paramilitary groups coming across our borders from Mexico and basically invading the United States of America, and our federal government basically does nothing. And it only took Arizona to stand up and say, we've had enough, federal government, you're not protecting us, we'll take matters into our own hands. And I never thought I'd see a day where the federal government would sue a state.
What should the states do if the federal government fails to live up to its responsibilities under the U.S. Constitution?
It's called the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment basically says states' rights. The state has a right to do anything it needs to do to protect itself. And that's exactly what Arizona did, and I applaud them.
So, am I hearing something else? Let me ask you this. Is the illegal immigration debate really just a smokescreen for something else?
It could be used as that. I'm hoping that that's not the case, though. States' rights, we have to have strong statesmen in the states to stand up themselves and say, federal government, just like Arizona did, said, we're taking back our rights. I hope it's not a smokescreen. I hope the federal government isn't overreaching like it seems to be. The states have to be strong. We have to stand up for our own rights, or else we will lose them.
Chip, there's been a lot of discussion in the Tea Party movement about destroying quote-unquote party politics. You mentioned earlier that you initially ran looking more as an independent, even through a Tea Party operation, but you chose instead to run as a Republican. What is your relationship with the National Republican Party, and what value and help have they been to you so far during this campaign?
Well, we came very close to running as independents, very close, because we're rather independent. Our whole team was, and we were thinking about running that way, but we thought the infrastructure of the Republican Party would help us to make sure that we were on the right track of getting to Washington, D.C. I think Gingrich did say that there's 2 tracks going to D.C., one's Democrat and one's Republican, and that's why we ran on the Republican ticket, but we're conservatives. We're very conservative in our views. The Republican Party, I have to say the CD8, Congressional District 8 Republican Party, has been very supportive of us. And the local people, the people that we go out and touch on a daily basis. The state party has been less so, but they give us the thumbs up, and we have not heard anything from the national party whatsoever.
Interesting.
So it's the local people that believe in us and have been really supportive for us, and you know what, that's the way it should be anyway.
Well, given that, at least at the national level, the RNC, if elected, do you feel like you owe them anything?
I owe the people of Minnesota. They're my boss. That's who I'll be working for. And that's pretty much says it in a nutshell.
Last year, as you know, Chip, an estimated 1.6 million Tea Party supporters marched upon Washington, D.C. Then, just last week, hundreds of thousands more did so again. Why do you think people are so frustrated, frightened, and angry with their government?
They're not listening. They're not paying attention to us. That's why they were in D.C. That's why you see tea parties all over the nation. Congress is not listening. The government is not listening. Actually, the government's actually doing exactly opposite what we asked them to do. You know, more than 65% of Americans did not want this health care bill, and yet it was rammed down our throat. That's why the Tea Party's there. That's why we're in D.C.
If elected, what's your views on the idea of repealing Obamacare?
That's one of my first targets, repealing the health care bill. I truly feel it's against the 10th Amendment. I never thought in my lifetime I would ever see a condition of being a citizen of the United States as I must purchase a product from the federal government, health insurance.
Chip, what can be done, or should anything be done, to limit the teachers' union influence in our children's classrooms? Influences, for example, I mean class size, staffing levels, and textbooks.
It's interesting this debate is focusing on the teachers' union and not the education for children. I hear more about the teachers' unions than I hear about how we doing in schools, how our children are being educated. And I have to say that the majority of teachers are good, solid people. I mean, they're good, solid people that try to teach our children and do it well. In Chisago Lakes, where I am, the teachers are fantastic. They're good, solid teachers. But when we have what we're talking about here basically is parent choice, what parents want to do with their children. I think a competitive nature is probably the best thing for schools, being charter schools, being voucher, you know, to having schools, parents able to pay to go to other types of schools. And the funding should follow the student as well. Competition makes us all better. So it shouldn't be about the unions, it should be about the education the children are receiving. And let that play out best.
Chip, you've been very clear on your position regarding paying down the national debt. Many people talk of tax reform with options such as the fair tax plan. The fair tax plan would mean elimination of the IRS. It would mean people taking home all of their paycheck. It would mean being taxed on consumption. And most importantly, it would mean taking away Congress's ability to wage class warfare at our expense. What is your opinion of an option like the fair tax plan?
Well, obviously our tax code is broken. We have a tax code that is forcing businesses out of the United States instead of bringing them in. The fair tax is an example of where we would actually be a tax haven for business. So when businesses come into the United States, they create jobs. And that's the sort of thing we need right here in the United States is jobs. I would love never to file a 1040 again. The fair tax is something we definitely should take a look at. We have to limit the size of government. The IRS has just gotten way too big. They've become way too powerful. And that is something we definitely have to take a look at. I agree.
Chip, you've been equally clear that you believe unemployment is a tremendous threat to our national security. Some sources have it as high as 17% nationally. What do you believe are the real underlying causes for this massive unemployment we see today?
I think it's our tax code. I truly do. You see businesses heading out of the United States on a routine basis for tax haven countries like Malaysia. You see businesses thriving over there. They can actually create business and bring it back here to the United States and sell it for a cheaper cost. Along with that is restrictions and regulations here in the United States. They're also chasing businesses out. Now we have the health care bill. That is just astronomical on how many jobs we're going to lose from that bill. Here in the 8th District, we have so many small businesses. And this health care bill is directly going to affect these small businesses. They're barely making it now. Now you're going to add a fine on top of them if they can't provide the type of health care insurance that the government says they have. Other businesses are saying we have to hire people just to be able to administer this health care bill. So this is, we're chasing businesses out of the United States through our tax code, and that is one of the main reasons that I see unemployment here in the United States. We see it here in Minnesota. Because of the state tax here in Minnesota on businesses are going to South Dakota. So just multiply that on a national level, and that's basically what we're seeing.
Thank you, Captain Cravaack, for sitting down with the Minnesota Freedom Council for this interview.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.